Hello. You just caught me reading up on my favorite map of the vast forests of Antarctica. Today, we are going to be talking about the Renaissance, everyone's favorite topic. Now, we will talk about royalty, art, and daily life. So, what was life like in the 1300s?
Well, in Florence, the market was the oldest part of Florence, and that was where everyone would always mill about and buy and sell things. And one of the most famous sculptors was Donatello, and he made a lot of very pricey things, but they all served as really great structures in the buildings, and they offered quite the, eccentricity to the buildings.
So what were some of the small towns like?
Well, towns had rules and regulations like they do nowadays. And some of those rules were things such as curfews, so everyone had to go to bed at a certain time of the night. There were also guilds, and each guild performed a different service to each town. And then there were also servants, all slept in trundle beds, which were brought out at nighttime.
So, what were some of the towns like in the 1300s?
Well, the heart of Florence was its main square. In the main square, it was filled with people year-round. Most of the dealings that happened would occur there. Now, there were also lots of goods and services that were passed along.
So what did Renaissance really mean to the people?
Well, in the 1300s, Renaissance meant rebirth, and coming out of the Dark Ages, it was important to have a new idea of optimism, and that idea was well alive in the ideas of scholars, poets, and artists of the world.
So, what of the entertainment in the 1300s?
Dog. So, there were many talented and creative individuals that sustained themselves in the 1300s. Many patrons had a deep and genuine appreciation for artistic creation. Works are dedicated to the patrons who provided the funds. So, how was medieval drama?
Come, Alligator Dixie. Medieval drama was religion in nature. Many of these religions plays continued to be performed with the 17th century. Dramatic developers became evident in 13th and 14th century Europe. Most major European cities held a summer festival. The action of these dramas consumed so much time that the theatrical performances was begun at 4:30 in the morning.
What were the guilds like in the Renaissance?
Well, many of the guild masters were rather tyrannical, and the people in the lower ranks were often made frustrated by the people in the higher ranks lacking laborious work. In some cases, people experiencing the highest degree of poverty would resort to begging and thievery. Most of the lower level workforce was actually wiped out by the plague.
What are the 5 classes?
So, there were gentlemen, citizens, yeomen, artificers, and laborers. The first 3 classes had a say in the government. The 4th group were poor husbands with no farmland. The 5th group had no say in the government and were outcasts.
So, what did the people think of the classes?
Many people accepted this society of classes. It gave all the poor people their chance to have jobs. It gave them a role in society. Although most kings, princes, and high-ups did have their own authority.
So, was there movement in between the classes?
Elizabeth I wasn't very keen on making new royalty. The border between classes wasn't very defined. Blending in between classes was common, though. Many people could lose everything they own and go from gentleman to laborer over years.
Even though arranged marriage was banned, many teens had little control over his or her love. Male apprentices dominated the social ladder most of the time, and many teens would live with their master, even if it wasn't his family.
So how about the children of this time period?
Well, many children were rich, but the children who were poor had to work for the things they wanted more than the rich children did. and all of the children of the time period maintained a debt that usually they carried to their death. And despite all of this, all the children were strict to keep the children in line, doing the things they needed to be doing.
So how were women in this time period?
Well, many forces made to keep women in their place. Many women were not educated beyond basics. If women wanted education, they had to hire personal tutors, which only upper class wanted. Most educated people learned how to speak multiple languages. Now, let's talk about art.
So, madam, you claim to know Mr. Da Vinci?
I remember Da Vinci, he was my next door neighbor. Man, he was a cute baby when I was born in 1452. Too bad a couple weeks later he died in 1519.
So, you...
Dylan Byrne, whale biologist. So now, let's talk about some famous things, such as Sistine Chapel, made by Michelangelo. He actually dismissed almost all of his helpers because he really didn't want to do the job. That's why he left, but then he came back. And also, Da Vinci, he made a really big horse. It was actually 4 times the regular size of a horse. It was made out of clay, but it was destroyed because some Milan soldiers thought it'd be cool to use it as target practice, and they destroyed it before he put it encased in copper.
And that sums it up for
The Renaissance!
Don't forget to drink a tree,